Going down.
Okay.
Someone has to do this, something for meetings.
Okay.
Over there. Okay.
You're welcome to sit there.
I'll sit. Be a man of the people. Okay.
Spider. There's a spider literally on my.
Close to the bedroom that you get. Yeah, my dad. You just want to do some business here. And we should be.
Sitting in a new place. Well, 5 of you, 4 seats, yeah, okay. Oh, my goodness. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how the mic goes today. There. All right, well, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Go ahead and get started. Let's mic up really loud. It feels very loud to me, but
Loud, good.
yes and no on that. So I'm gonna put it down and put it lower and we'll see. So first we'll welcome in our last Chametzi Shabbat before Pesach. So if you already had dinner, I hope you enjoyed your last challah for a couple of weeks. If you haven't yet, enjoy it later. For now, we'll start with Shalom Aleichem as we welcome in the angels of Shabbat on page 5. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharei, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malchei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharei, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malchei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon V'melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon V'melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon V'melech Malchei Hamalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeichem Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon V'melech Malchei Hamalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll turn it to Lechu Niranina, which will open on page 11 and continue individually and pick up at the caret on page 12. Lechu Niranina l'Adonai nari aletzor hishenu nekanata v'tzudya v'zmiro nari alo nekanata V'zmiro nari alo Yel gadol Adonai U'melech gadol al kol Elohim Asher b'mechirei haaretz v'to'afot harim lo Asher b'mechirei haaretz v'to'afot harim lo. Arbaim shana kud bedor v'almaram toy levavim v'heim lo yadu zrachai asher nishbati ve'api im yavohu l'menuchati. Turn to Shira Ladonai, page 13, which will again begin and then pick up at the caret on page 14. Yismechu hashamayim hashamayim Yismechu hashamayim hashamayim Yismechu hashamayim V'tagel haaretz Yismechu hashamayim hashamayim Yismechu hashamayim hashamayim Yismechu hashamayim V'tagel haaretz Yiram hayam Yiram hayam Yiram hayam Yiram hayam Yiram hayam Yiramaya Mulo.
Hashamayim,
Hashamayim,
Yismechu Hashamayim,
Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'targel haaretz.
Yalosai v'chol asher bo, Gazronenu kol hatzeyar, Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, Yishpot tevel b'tzedek, Ve'amim be'emunato.
We'll turn to Mizmor LeDavid, page 21, and I'll invite us to please rise.
Mizmor LeDavid, Havu Adonai v'nei, Havu Adonai kavod va'od, Havu Adonai yevod shemo, Yishtachavu Adonai v'hadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai el hamayim, el hakavod yirim, Adonai Mayim Rabim, Kol Adonai b'koach, Kol Adonai b'hadar, Kol Adonai shover arzim, Vayshaver Adonai et arzei havanon, Vayarkideim kemo egel Levanon v'Sirion, kemo ben re'evim. Kol Adonai chotze ha'otesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai echol el hayalot, Vayechezdo ye'alot, U'hechalo kulo merkavod, kulo merkavod. Adonai lama hu yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai os le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom.
Be seated as we turn it to Lecha Dodi, welcoming in the bride of Shabbat. We'll begin with the first three stanzas on page 23 and then jump to the final two on page 25.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikra. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Yishmi'anu el ha'miluchad, Adonai echad, U'shmo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'tehillah, Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'melcha, Ki mekor nerosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh machshava techila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, Kumitei mitzvavecha, Rav l'shevet be'emek ha'bacha, Ve'hu yachol aleichem lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Page 25.
Yaminus moti froti, ve'et Adonai ta'anisi, al yadish ben parsi, ve'nismecha ve'nagila, ve'chadodi,
We'll rise and turn to the
Pnei Shabbat nekabela, lechadodi likrot hala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela, boi b'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'tzora, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, v'chadodi likrat chala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela, lechadodi likrat chala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Be seated as we turn to the Psalm for Shabbat, page 27. It is good to give thanks, page 27, on to 28.
Yizmor shir liyom haShabbat. Tzadik tamar yifrach ke'erez balganon yisgeshen tuli bebeit Adonai v'chatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenun b'seima d'shenim merananim yiyu lehavid yashar Adonai tzuri ve'ohat.
As for moments of memory between our Kabbalat Shabbat service and our Mariv service. And so as we turn to page 30, I invite all who are in mourning, any who are observing yard sites, and any for whom it's your custom to do so, to rise as we turn to the Kaddish Yatom, to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 30. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah. Ve'alma divrach tirutei ve'amlich malchutei. V'chayechon uvyomechon v'chayei zechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala ubizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'elam omei amaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shmei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Invite us all to please rise. We turn to the Baruch, page 39a.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
Seated, continue individually at the bottom paragraph of 39a or b.
Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdio ben yom uvev laila. Adonai tzevaot shemo el chai v'kayam. Tamid imachalinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, amari v'aravim.
Turn to Ahavat Olam as we prepare for the Shema with love. We start on Ahavat Olam on page 40 and go directly into the Shema and its paragraphs on pages 41 and 42.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, amachata, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadta, al kein Adonai Eloheinu, v'shofeinu u'chumeinu, v'shofeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayim ve'orech yameinu, ve'orech yameinu. U'bahem neged yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla. V'yavatecha al tasir mimenu li'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם בניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקמך ושכבתם לאות על ידך, והיו תותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Adonai Elohechem emet.
Continue individually on 43A or B, and we'll resume together on page 44.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef elem. Malchutecha ra'u banecha. Bokei hayam lifnei Moshe. Ze'eli anu ve'amaru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Lemar kipad Adonai et Yaakov u'galom yad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai God Yisrael.
Turn to page 45 for Hashkivenu as we pray for a shelter of peace over the entire world. Page 45.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu malkeinu lechayim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us with wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu lechayim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu lechayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha, baruch atah Adonai, haporeis sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol hamo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
As we turn to page 46 for Vishamru and Chatzi Kaddish.
Veshameru b'nei Yisrael et hashavat la'asot et hashavat ledorot haberit olam ובני ישראל אותי לעולם. ימים חסר אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemay Rabba, Amen. Yamadi Raki Rute, Yamlich Malchute, Bechayim Chonu, Yomechon, Ufayeh Dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bisman Kariv, Imru, Amen. Yehesh Merava Barach. Le'olam me'omaya yitbarach Yitzchak, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shmir kudsha,
B'richu.
v'leila, min kol birchata v'shirata, tu
Mishpechata v'nechata damiran ve'alma. Amen. Individual Shabbat evening Amidah begins on page 47 and continues through page 52. I invite you to use the Hebrew or the English in the words of your own heart, page 47 through 52. We're still davening, still praying your individual Amidah. That means continue to do so. Otherwise, I'll invite us to rise. We turn to page 53 for the Me'en Sheva repetition of the themes of our evening's Amidah.
Vaychulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tziva'am Vaychal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa Vayvarech Elohim et Yom HaShvi. Vayvarech Elohim et Yom HaShvi. Vaykadesh Oto. Ki vo Shabbat mikom melachato asher bara Elohim lasot. Yalalai, 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 yalalai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon HaKodesh Hamayim V'Haaretz, Magin Avod Midbaro, V'Chayei Mitim V'Ma'amaro, Ha'el HaKadosh She'ein Kamohu, Hamediach Le'amo Yom Shabbat Kodsho, Yivam Ratzal Haniach Lahem, לפניו נעמוד וירא בפחד, ונודה לשמו לכל יום תמיד, מאוד הברכות. אל ההודעות אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי, ומניח מקדושה לעמד ושני עונג, זכר למעשה בראשית.
Page 54.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, רצנו חטאנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו את תורתך, זכרנו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, ותאר ליבנו להודך ינחילנו אדוני אלוהינו, באהבה ורצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו בישראל מקדש שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
As we continue with Kaddish Shalem, you can remain standing or be seated according to your custom.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, ויברק ירצה וימליך מלכותה, בחי יכול ויאמר חנוכי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה ויזמן קריבים רבים, יהי שמירה ומברך, לעולם ולעלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרום וינשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי וקודשה. בריחו לעילא מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם בעלמא ואמרומי. תגבל צאן ובת הון לכל ישראל, קודם והון וישמעיה ואמרומי. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמעיה, וחיים עלינו ולכל ישראל ואמרומי. ועושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Be seated. This is where this is almost the scariest Friday night talk of the year for me because I have no idea what you want me to talk about. This is the one where the last Shabbat before Pesach, tomorrow morning is called Shabbat Hagadol, probably in reference to wording in the Haftarah, but it's the Great Shabbat. Because historically, on the morning of Shabbat Hagadol was actually one of the 2 times that the rabbi would give a sermon. Yes, that's right. There used to only be 2 times that you expected your rabbi to give a sermon. You all asked me to talk every week. No, it used to only be on Shabbat Hagadol and on Shabbat Shuvah between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Used to be the only times you'd hear a sermon, and the joke was that it was Hagadol, the big one, because it was a long one. I don't promise I will. I promise I won't talk for 40 minutes tomorrow, but I don't promise it won't be longer than usual. You'll have to come see. But for now, I open up to any Pesach questions we have as we are in the home stretch tonight as we begin the 12th of Nisan. Any questions we have? Harlan?
Yes, why in some circles is corn allowed and others it is not allowed?
Why in some circles is corn permitted and in others it is not? So corn is considered by most Ashkenazic authorities to be in the category of kitniot. Often kitniot is often translated as legumes, but clearly that's not a great translation because things like corn are not legumes. But it ends up referring to grains or grain-like things, because rice is also in that category. Rice, again, not a legume. Grains or grain-looking items of food that are not explicitly one of the 5 grains that make up chametz. For something to be truly chametz and grains are forbidden to be eaten are wheat, barley, oats, spelt, rye. That's it. Those 5 are the ones that are absolutely forbidden, and everybody from every Jewish tradition holds that those are the 5. Some think that oats is might be a mistranslation of one of the Hebrew, but generally those are your 5: wheat, barley, oats, spelt, rye. Those are also the 5 that matzah has to be made from, by the way. There's this tension of we have to get very close to what's forbidden in order to have that matzah and that bread of both affliction and redemption. But things like corn and other kitniot were forbidden by the Ashkenazic tradition for a very long time because they would be sold in an open marketplace. And there was potential for cross-contamination and for things to get into one place or to another, or they look too much like grains. At this point, the conservative movement holds that kitniot, corn included, can be considered permitted, even to those of Ashkenazic descent, but not required. There are still plenty of conservative Ashkenazic Jews who just like, nope, our family's never done it. We're not going there. I can't do it. But the conservative movements determined that it actually is permissible because it was originally set up as a chumrah, as a strictness, as a way to protect ourselves from accidentally violating the actual prohibition. So that's where forbidding these extra grains helped keep us from accidentally eating the grains that were forbidden. Today we have the Passover hechshers. It's very clear if it's kosher for Passover. I personally would suggest if you do take on the practice of eating kitniot, at least looking for the hechshers that say Passover for those who eat kitniot. That's becoming more and more common. You can find it. I know you can find certain products at Market Maven and 7 Mile with that distinction, because that will also means that they were checked still for making sure to ensure that there's no cross contamination.
It says kitniot.
Yeah.
Corn syrup.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So there's you'll see some candies that say corn or corn syrup is permitted for those who have kitniot.
But if they have those grains, then why though is both sides now allowing, say, quinoa? Nobody has any.
Because quinoa, there's 2 reasons why quinoa is not considered kitniot. Is 1, quinoa is a seed, it's not a grain. And 2, it was not known by the authorities who defined the category of kitniot at the time. And we're going to go with that, and we're not going to change that. Because I need quinoa in my house for Pesach. Yitzchak, I saw a hand. What is the afikomen? That is a much deeper question than you might realize. So I will let you in on a secret that most modern Jews don't really realize. The rabbis in the Talmud weren't sure either. Even in the Mishnah, it says, after your final eating of the Passover lamb, you should not have an afikomen. So the Talmud went, huh? What is an afikomen? What is it? So the best guess is that it was some kind of dessert, some kind of after dinner, either extra celebration or treat. One of them suggests that it's little chicks, like mini chick, like little Cornish hens or mushrooms. Good dessert. But it's essentially the thing that we have to very much at the very end of our meal. In our modern Seder, it's actually half of the matzah that we broke at the beginning of the Seder, which could be because, I think at least, we started the Seder from a place of brokenness and slavery. And that's when we break it. Halach ma'anya, this is the bread of affliction, we break it. At the end of the Seder, we bring ourselves back to whole when we finish the story of being redeemed. And that one we can't end the Seder without, because if we're celebrating being freed, we need the other half of that broken piece of matzah. I'll talk a little bit more there on that tomorrow, which means it's become tradition, probably around the Middle Ages, for the afikomen to get stashed, sometimes hidden by an adult in plain sight. I'm looking at one person in particular there. And sometimes stolen away by the kids and then ransomed back because we can't finish the Seder without it. But it's today is Chak, it's the other half of that piece of matzah that allows us to finish the Seder. And it's the thing we get to go searching for in the house. It's hide and seek number 2 of the Passover prep. The first one is while you're cleaning.
Because it says find the afikomen. So the afikomen must be
Right, in our modern Haggadot, nobody questions it anymore. In our modern Haggadot, we definitely mean the half of the matzah that we broke at the beginning, that often gets hidden, so we have to go looking for it. You're very right. Sharon?
Do you suggest for households where there's people of different levels of observance or a mixed marriage, where one person wants to sell it and have it at the house, but not forcing it onto other people in the household who want to have it like out of the kitchen somewhere to actually just for themselves?
How do we manage a house where it sounds like there's a mixed willingness to really to go all in on keeping kosher for Passover? Making a really strict tight chametz zone is the best I could suggest for any in the family who are not going to. Ideally, we want to at least give it a try. Maybe even just for the 2 days of Yom Tov to start. But if we really can't, if we're somehow sharing a kitchen, some people share a kitchen with non-Jews who don't need to keep kosher for Passover. The request would be to either make a very designated space that is the kosher for Passover space where no chametz can go in there. Or probably more helpful for that person, a designated space where the chametz is and is kept to, so that the people who are avoiding chametz for Passover can also avoid looking, because ideally you don't look at it either. But finding some way to designate a corner of the kitchen, a corner of a dining room, something. Yeah. Marianne.
In the Maxwell house, I have 2 questions. One is, why isn't the suspension? And number 2, what is the purpose of all of the rabbis talking about and say multiples of 5, 10, 50? I can't even
Be the part where he says, we're like, in the Red Sea, it was this one.
Yes.
And then it was
The plagues.
They were smitten with 50 plagues.
Yeah, the exponential plagues. So Marianne, in the most popular Haggadah ever, the Maxwell House Haggadah, really, the Maxwell Coffee did a really good job of. Exactly, they did a very good job of marketing by way of giving Haggadot away for free, and then selling kosher for Passover instant coffee. Why is Moses not mentioned? Moses is not mentioned in any traditional Haggadah text. Even is laid out from the Talmud, like pretty much any traditional Haggadah you're going to come to, Moses isn't mentioned, and it's usually said that is so that we focus on God's role as Redeemer of the people of Israel, and we multiple times point out with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm that God is the one who brought us out, with a reminder, which is meant to be a reminder that Moses was the conduit, was the person to help God do that, but that God was the actual Redeemer. As far as what's with the multiplying plagues, because this is right after we do the 10 drops that then become like 13, because there's the little acronym of the 10 plagues after. And then we have this strange narrative that's added of like, but these 10 are really this many, and just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I think that's also there to really underline and enforce God's strength and God's ability to have done this, and the wonders that God did were even bigger than you thought they were. Any other? Okay, I have candy that is not pushed for Passover on my Bima, and Yitzchak was the only kid who asked for questions, so Yitzchak. Yitzchak. You can even have 2, yellow or red. Gonna toss it to you. Yes, like that. Future Cedric Mullins right there. That was that. Okay, I'll also mention tomorrow, instead of a typical monthly Torah learning after lunch tomorrow, I'll also be available for any further Pesach questions that might arise, or do a little bit more study on Pesach, but I'll be available after Kiddush tomorrow. For now, we're okay to continue our service, unless there's anyone like, wait, okay. So we'll turn back to our prayer books and turn to page 55, and we'll rise for our Shabbat evening Kiddush.
Sabri Chaverai, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu v'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila v'mikra'ei kodesh. Zecher litziat mitzrayim. Kivan Kidasha Mikol Hamim Shabbat Kosher Ve'Aharon Imchalchanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Remain standing as we turn to Aleinu, page 56, onto page 57.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, lateidu laliyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kikoye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'hor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei Malchei Hamlavim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notei Shamayim ve'Yosed Haaretz, Moshe v'Karon HaShamayim v'Ma'al, V'Shinat Zo, V'Govei Meromim, Hu Eloheinu Einod, Emet Malkeinu Eretz Tulato, Kakatu B'Torato, Yadata Yom V'Shevota El Levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, V'Shamayim Ima'al, V'Al Haaretz, V'Itzavat Einod. Akatu b'tortecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai le'melech kol haaretz. Vayom ha'u yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Seated. So we turn to the Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. We ask that God grant that the memories of those who've gone before us be a source of strength for us and for everyone in the house of Israel. May the souls of our departed find peace in God's sheltering care. May we all be blessed with peace, tranquility, and the fullness of life. This week, as a congregation, remember the yard sites of Retta Goldfarb, Joan Shima, Rachel Hazout, Irene Cross, Morris Pike, Mindy Rabinowitz, William Lustbader, Trudy Haber, Gloria Shears, Sam Shaman, and Bonnie Gandel. I invite all who are in mourning, any who are observing yard sites, any for whom it's your custom to do so, to rise as we turn to the Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, on page 58. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, ve'chayechon uvyomechon u'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, va'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Umei Omaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal Shemei Dekudesha Barichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amin Yehi Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amin Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, imru, amen. May the one grants peace on high, grant peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who mourn. Seated, it's my pleasure this evening, the Shabbat, to call on Alan Spiegel, the Men's Club representative to our board of directors, to share some announcements with us.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you to everyone who has joined us online and in person, and to Mary Ann for setting up tonight's Oneg. The Oneg tonight is sponsored by Beth Shalom Congregation. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The Dush is sponsored by Beth Shalom Congregation. If you have any additional Passover questions, Rabbi Greenspan will be happy to answer them following the Kiddush. Next Shabbat, Friday night and Saturday morning services online and in person. All of the onegs and kiddushes during Passover will take place in the Caesarea and Delgania classrooms. Following the Siyum Monday morning, areas within the building will be sealed for Passover. Please only enter spaces that are not taped off. The Siyum for the firstborn is Monday, April 22nd at 7:30 a.m. There is no evening minyan on Monday, April 22nd, or Tuesday, April 23rd, due to the Seder's. Passover services on Tuesday, April 23rd, and Wednesday, April 24th begin at 9:30 a.m. Beth Shalom's offices are closed on those days. The Zoom links for the Passover services mailed Sunday afternoon. Torah Trop for beginners with Cantor app begin Thursday at 7:45 p.m. Oldest hate, brief history of Jew hatred, how to recognize and respond to it, with Rabbi Grossman begins Tuesday, May 7th. Walk and schmooze through Brookside Gardens with Nevonim Sunday, May 5th at 11 a.m. Nevonim is a social group made up of congregants who are 55 and older. Baseball is back. The Men's Club is planning a night to see the Baltimore Orioles play the Washington National Stadium on Wednesday, May 8th. This is open to the community. If you're interested, please contact Scott Klein. You can always check out these and other programs on our website at www.beth-shalom.net. After Shabbat, please take a moment to follow and like Beth Shalom on Facebook and Instagram and share with your friends and networks. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Now we can conclude our service with Yigdal on page 62.
Yigdal Elohim Chai v'yishtabach Nimtza le'yenet al metziuto Echad yachid keyichudo Nelamed gam ein sof le'achduto Ein lo d'guf ve'eino guf Lo naroch elo kedushato Kadmon l'chol davar asher nivra Mishayin Rishit L'Reshit Tohino Adon Olam Bechol Notzar Yoreg Gdulato Malchuto Shefar Nebuato Netano Elam Shpeit Gdulato V'Tifarto Lo Kama Yisrael K'Moshe Navi Umavita Tunato Torah Ben-Natan le'Amoel, Al Yain Elion, Yisrael, Velo Yamir Dato, Leolamim Zulato, Sofer Yodea, Setareinu, Rabbi Lesov Davar Kadmato, Omer Shesek Emivalo, Noten Rashara Kemishato, Yishmak Yitamim Meshichenu, Livdon Chayket Yeshua, Tomitim Yechael, Baruch Haso, Baruch Adei Shem Tehilato, Meitim Yechael, Baruch Haso, Baruch Adei Shem Tehilato.
Shabbat Shalom. See everyone in the room and on the Zoom, and almost a Chag Pesach Sameach, almost a Zisen Pesach. Shabbat Shalom.